first story behind mentioned walls, a miserly millionaire.
Can I have some more?
His briefcase was the same container that you would carry a case of beer in.
Spawns bad blood.
Dad said, I'm not sending any more money.
And later,
people get concerned, Jersey's a very small place.
a billionaire's hideaway holds a birthday surprise.
Nicholas! Elizabeth! Is anybody there?
Had they been kidnapped? Had they been murdered?
I'm Christopher Mason. They say you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. Some pay scant regard to family ties. Ruthless relatives who cash in the bonds of kinship and destroy their own flesh and blood.
In a dilapidated warehouse in Salt Lake City, an old man lies dead.
He'd been shot twice.
Shot with a .357 Magnum. His contents from his pockets were spread out. He didn't have a lot of cash on him.
Who would want to rob and kill this shabbily dressed man?
It was an area of Salt Lake where hobos and vagrants would often get on and off the train.
But looks can be deceiving.
Franklin Bradshaw was a millionaire.
He was certainly one of the wealthiest people in the West.
Salt Lake City, for its Mormon founders, the kingdom of God on earth. Like the rest of America, the kingdom thrives in the industrial boom after World War II. As families sprawl out to the suburbs, Utah businessman Franklin Bradshaw sees two surefire moneymakers: cars and fuel.
Franklin Bradshaw essentially started with nothing, except a very strong work ethic.
Franklin sets up a string of auto parts stores across Utah.
The real money, though, came from federal oil and gas leases.
He was one of the largest holders of oil leases in the United States. And from that, he amassed a fortune.
By the late 1950s, Franklin's business is booming. But you wouldn't know it.
Can we do a sandwich, Papa?
Thanks, sweetie.
He was very frugal and very ambitious.
Very eccentric, odd individual who worked all the time.
No mansion walls for this millionaire. Franklin and his glamorous wife, Berenice, bring up their kids in a modest home in suburban Salt Lake. His oldest daughter, Marilyn, remembers her father's only pleasure was work.
He would get up every morning and he'd be to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that was 7 days a week. All of his life that I know of.
His briefcase was the same container that you would carry a case of beer in. He put everything in it. He took to work every morning.
The eccentric auto parts king pours almost every penny he earns back into his business. Anything else is darn wasteful.
Can I have some more?
It's just strange that somebody would be worth that kind of money and not spend it.
Daughter Marilyn doesn't mind. She helps her father build his empire.
I worked with him. I spent summers working at the auto parts store. I got a feeling of how everybody respected him.
But some family members despair of their miserly life. Franklin's wife, Berenice, hankers for the finer things.
The marriage was not happy.
She was frustrated by the fact that she felt like Franklin had the money to spend on the family and wouldn't do it.
Nice. Look what he gave me.
Berenice's only consolation, her youngest daughter, Frances, the apple of her mama's eye.
She was our little baby sister, and everybody just loved her to death. She got mother's full attention and as much money as mother could get out of dad.
Like her mama, Frances is eager to escape their meager existence.
She wanted to have an Eastern lifestyle, ultimately wind up in New York City. She desperately wanted to get away from Salt Lake.
As a teenager, Frances Bradshaw finally gets her wish. She's sent off to an exclusive girls' school on the East Coast.
Mother sent her to New York with all new everything.
One bite of the Big Apple, and Frances is hooked.
She wanted to live on the Upper East Side of New York. In fact, that's the only place she ever lived, in New York.
2 decades and 2 husbands later, the Bradshaw heiress is now Frances Schroeder, and she's firmly entrenched among New York's notables. Her mother, Berenice, often escapes Utah for a taste of her daughter's enviable life.
Bernice would make trips to New York because she, too, wanted a more glamorous life, had wanted that from the beginning.
Living it up with the ladies is Frances's closest friend,
Ladies, fine red wine.
Richard Dickey Barons.
They seemed to gravitate together. It was strictly a friendship, I'm sure, and they just liked to get together and talk about things and plan things that they never did.
One thing Frances never does is earn her own money.
Frances had no source except Mother. So anything that was done in Frances's name came from Mother.
And Mama's money comes, begrudgingly, from Daddy. By now, Franklin Bradshaw is in his 70s, but he still likes to keep his hands dirty with auto parts.
Here's a man worth millions of dollars, 76 years old, he's still working.
Frances might reject her father's work ethic, but her 2 sons, Mark and Larry, don't. The teenage boys spend their vacations in Utah, helping out at Grandpa's warehouse.
Our parents would invite the boys to Utah to spend the summers.
And so they came out and worked the entire summer down at the Bradshaw Auto Parts store.
In the summer of 1977, Franklin Bradshaw is struck down by a mystery virus. Luckily, the boys are on hand to nurse Grandpa back to good health.
He had a strong constitution. He did his push-ups every day. He drank all these kind of crazy things that now everybody thinks they're not crazy. Choline and inositol, and he was in fighting shape. It didn't kill him.
On a summer's day in 1978, Franklin Bradshaw has no grandsons to help out. It's Sunday morning. Franklin is the first one in. The auto parts store is still closed, but that won't stop this early morning caller.
Shot with a .357 Magnum.
Once in the back of the head and once in the back. His wallet was out, credit cards were strewn on the floor, his pockets had been pulled inside out, and the cash register was opened. So the police got there and they thought it was a robbery.
Detectives discover this isn't the first time someone has stolen from Franklin Bradshaw. The previous summer, valuable stocks and bonds went missing, $250,000 worth. Workers at the warehouse had suspected the summer helpers, Franklin's grandsons.
They didn't trust Mark and Larry for 1 second. And they really, would voice this. Frank did not want to believe them. He wanted to think the best of his grandsons.
So suspicion turns to Larry and Mark Schroeder. If they had robbed their grandfather, could they have also killed him? Cops learn Larry has a history of violence.
He had a criminal record. He had been to prison for aggravated assault.
Larry had attacked a school friend with a hammer.
He basically tried to kill his roommate.
But there's no evidence against him. And his brother Mark was in New York with his mom Frances at the time of the murder.
There was nothing to tie either one of them to this murder.
Meanwhile, Franklin's wife Berenice seems to be relishing the role of merry widow.
she sort of had a ball after Dad died because she had all of his money.
Berenice moves into a brand new condo in the more elite streets of Salt Lake City and starts spending her newfound fortune. More money for Berenice means more money for favorite daughter Frances.
It was like suddenly a dam had opened and money was rushing through.
When she had hold of Mother's money, she just went crazy.
She moved herself into 10 Gracie Square, a very fancy apartment building in New York.
Frances even buys her way into the New York Ballet with a record $300,000 donation.
She was on the board of directors because of a large donation, but it was Mother's money.
With a chorus line of family members apparently dancing on Franklin's grave, investigators have their work cut out. With no firm leads, the case goes cold for 2 years.
Things stalled. Things stalled for quite a while.
There was no physical evidence, there was no testimony, there was nothing. And then we got a break on the case.
So I put it on the counter, and I said, I think this bag contains a gun, and I think it's a gun that killed my father.
Plenty of rich people I know are extremely cheap. That's one way of staying rich. Looks like Franklin Bradshaw has just been punished for his penny-pinching ways. And it seems everyone in his family has a motive to kill him. One of them even has the murder weapon.
2 years after Franklin is shot dead, his oldest daughter, Marilyn, has a special delivery for the NYPD.
I walked in and I said, who's in charge here? And the officer said, I am. So I put it on the counter and I said, I think this bag contains a gun. And I think it's a gun that killed my father. Everybody jumped up to look in the bag to see what it was. And sure enough, it was a gun.
They run a ballistics check, and lo and behold, we've got our murder weapon.
What was Franklin's daughter doing with the smoking gun?
Maybe it was Marilyn. Maybe Marilyn did want the money.
Marilyn tells the cops someone else gave her the gun. Her sister Frances's trusted friend, Dickie Behrens. Has he contacted Marilyn to clear his guilty conscience?
I started milking him for what information he had. So I was able to use his paranoia and talk him into giving me the gun, which I promptly took to the police station.
Dickie doesn't just hand over the murder weapon. He also tells Marilyn who killed Franklin. One of Francis Schroeder's sons. Marilyn figures it's the older son, Larry.
She thought it was Larry. She was convinced it was Larry.
But Marilyn is mistaken.
Dickie told me, oh no, you got the wrong son. It was the younger son who did it.
It was Mark.
He had admitted to Richard Behrens that he had flown to Salt Lake City and killed his grandfather.
With the murder weapon and Dickie's damning revelation, police have enough to arrest Mark Schroeder for murder in 1980. The teenager confesses to killing his grandfather 2 years earlier. He also admits stealing from Franklin.
The year before the murder, according to Mark, they stole over $250,000 from their grandfather out of the warehouse at the Bradshaw Auto Parts Company.
Mark wasn't just lining his pockets that summer. He was lacing Granddad's gruel.
He attempted to poison Franklin Bradshaw with rat poison. He was going to put it in his oatmeal.
Cramps.
So why would Mark Schroeder be targeting his grandfather?
Mark said that his mother had put him up to it. This was all done at her request and her instruction.
Get out!
Was Mark simply a pawn in a deadly family game? Frances certainly liked control.
She was not a very good mother. She had what we call a narcissistic personality. Everything had to be her way. There was no compromise.
This Manhattan mom was more interested in scaling the social ladder than playing parent.
Mark said that she would sometimes lock them out of the apartment, sometimes for days, and not let them come back.
One part of Mark's story doesn't add up. Why would Frances cut off the hand that feeds her?
How could she possibly have persuaded her son to do this? And the even larger question was, why?
Could Mark be framing his mother as revenge for her poor parenting? Police decide to arrest Frances Schroeder,
Can we come in, please, ma'am?
raiding her apartment on the Upper East Side.
Excuse me, ma'am.
When they came in, Frances was on her way out the window. And they're not sure whether she was going to commit suicide or whether she was just trying to hide by climbing out the window, but they literally had to pull her back inside the apartment.
4 years after her father's slaying,
Ma'am, just calm down.
Frances is charged with first-degree murder. She pleads innocent, insisting her son Mark acted alone.
After she got charged, she put all of the blame just on Mark and said it was all his idea. He carried it out on his own.
Utah is poised for a sensational trial as mother and son go head-to-head. For Sister Marilyn, it seems surreal.
The reason I can talk about it, I was able to step back and watch it happen.
Someone not content to sit back and watch is Frances's faithful pal, Dickie Behrens. The man who held the murder weapon also holds the key to this case.
Now swirl.
Frances Schroeder stands accused of her father Franklin Bradshaw's murder. The star witness is her trusted confidant, Dickie Behrens. He has already implicated her son, Mark. Now, Dickie is about to put his old pal Frances in the social pages for all the wrong reasons.
Frances owed Richard Behrens $3,500, and she would not pay him.
That's loose change for Frances. But that unpaid debt is enough to make Dickie spill the beans.
Frances had told him that she was behind it, and she was going to have her father killed because he was going to change the will and cut her out entirely.
Frances's all-consuming greed began as a teenager when she was thrown out of her fancy finishing school.
She was thrown out of Bryn Mawr, but she was forging checks, which was a pattern that continued in her life. Forging checks, she stole money from classmates.
They said that she wouldn't be considered for readmission unless she had some intensive psychiatric care.
The demanding daughter spent the next 2 decades feeding off her father's money.
He saw her as just basically an empty vessel when it came to money, not knowing how to manage money, not particularly wanting a job. And he saw her constantly just using what he felt was using Bernice, Frances' mother, his wife, to keep financing a lifestyle that he couldn't understand. He had no concept of why an apartment in New York City cost as much as it did. And so some of his agreement for a while, he sent money. And when he didn't want to send any money anymore, Bernice found a way to send the money.
She had a different lifestyle than he did, and he didn't approve of what she was doing or where she was living.
The court hears that just months before his murder, Franklin Bradshaw decided to end his daughter's Manhattan lifestyle.
Dad had said,
I'm not supporting you in New York anymore.
How do you expect me to live?
You can come back to Utah.
but I'm not supporting you in New York anymore.
I'm not coming back to Utah.
I don't care what you do, but I'm not sending you any more money.
Swamping New York high society for suburban Utah is too much to bear for Frances. She knows she'll have her mother's support if her father is out of the way.
The reason Dad was killed was because Frances knew that if Mother had Dad's money, Frances had it.
At first, Frances seeks professional help.
There was apparently a hitman that Frances had engaged the services of for $5,000 to kill Franklin Bradshaw.
He took the money, but he never came to Salt Lake to carry out the murder.
Burned on the murder deal, Frances looks closer to home. Her 17-year-old son, Mark.
He wanted to please his mother. He did not want to be out in the cold. Her basic thing to Mark was, you have to do this. Grandpa's old. He's got a lot of money. You need to do this so that your family can survive. You need to do this for us.
That's the right thing to do.
Her rationale was, it's not really killing, Mark. It's not really killing. It's the right thing to do for us.
Mark Schroeder flies to Salt Lake City. He knows his grandfather will be the only one working early on a Sunday morning.
Mark.
He was waiting for his grandfather to turn around. The one thing he knew was that he could not shoot him face to face. One shot to the back, which sent him hurtling to the floor, face down. And then another shot at close range to his head. He needed and wanted to make sure he was dead because he didn't want to have to face his mother, Frances. And as he said, I didn't want to have to come back and do it again.
And then got on a plane and flew back home to New York.
Mark presents his mother with a memento.
She told her son what to do, and he followed orders. And I think he brought the gun back to prove to his mother that he's the one that had done it.
I did it.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Boy, what's the right thing to do?
But Mark is mommy's boy no more. His testimony against her helps the murder charge stick.
He said, Mom has to be stopped. She has to be stopped.
In September 1983, 5 years after Franklin Bradshaw was gunned down, Frances Schroeder is convicted of first-degree murder. She serves 13 years in prison.
Frances has never expressed any remorse in this case. At the time of sentencing, she continued to deny any involvement in the murder.
Mark Schroeder is convicted of second-degree murder. He is sentenced to life, but only serves 12 years.
Well, we were not happy with the amount of time for this type of murder.
And what of the mom who stood by her conniving daughter every step of the way? Berenice Bradshaw dies in 1995, the same year Frances is released from prison.
Bernice J. Bradshaw was the key to this whole story, in my opinion. She was stronger than any other individual in the story. And if she hadn't been so weak in her dealings with her youngest daughter, had she been able to turn her back on her much, much earlier, she would have maintained a good relationship with her other two daughters. But in a way, she lost everything. She lost her whole family.
In her will, she leaves a parting gift for her daughter.
A year after Bernice died, she tried to give Frances $1 million. I don't think she ever got it because you can't benefit financially from killing someone.
Franklin Bradshaw spent his life ensuring his family wouldn't be spoiled by money. In the end, it destroyed them all.
What happened to this American family that on the surface seemed to have everything, and yet in the most important senses, they had nothing.
Ah, families. One minute they're all having a jolly sing-song around the piano. The next, someone's orchestrating a murderous vendetta. And when you add serious money to the mix, things can go decidedly off-key, as one family finds out when their world comes crashing down.
After a furious hurricane, a millionaire's bungalow is still standing. But a friend senses something's not right.
It was very, very strange. The post had accumulated. The house was unlocked. The cars were there.
The house is like a sauna.
The heating was on very, very high.
Owners Nicholas and Elizabeth Newell have been out of contact for days.
Nicholas! Elizabeth! Is anybody there?
It's as if nature herself has swallowed the wealthy couple.
Elizabeth and Nicholas Newell just disappeared from the face of the earth. They were never seen again.
The tiny windswept island of Jersey, a remote British hideaway in the English Channel, straddling two cultures.
It's a kind of mixture of England and France. It's got beautiful rolling green fields, tiny little alleyways.
Jersey's best known for its brown cows, its beaches, and its billion-dollar bank accounts.
It's a tax haven.
Got a few $1 million to hide? Forget the Cayman Islands or the Bahamas. Jersey's the #1 offshore tax shelter on the planet. Roughly $5 billion per square mile is invested here. A treasure island for cashed-up British folk, like Nicholas and Elizabeth Newell.
They were from well-to-do, historic, moneyed Scottish industrial families, and they were both heirs to quite substantial sums of money. And they had a rather good life.
The affluent couple both studied at a prestigious British university.
St. Andrews University is a very beautiful, historic academic institution where, later on, Kate Middleton would meet and fall in love with Prince William. And that's where Elizabeth and Nicholas met.
They trained to become school teachers, but their privileged background meant Nicholas and Elizabeth could quit teaching the 3 R's to sail the 7 seas.
They had a dream, and their dream was to go on a beautiful trip to the West Indies on their boat and take the little boys with them.
Nicholas Newell's family made their fortune making nuts and bolts for the shipping industry. With the sea in his blood and an inheritance to protect, Nicholas happily sets up home in this millionaire's tax haven in 1967, with his wife Elizabeth and their young sons Mark and Roderick. And home is no beach shack.
Crow's Nest is a beautiful house overlooking the Atlantic. It's really magnificent. I'm sure the property now is worth a fortune. They fell in love with Jersey, like a lot of people did, and they decided that the boys would grow up there.
And grow up they did. 20 years later, the Newell boys have left their island home behind. Mark becomes a high-flying bonds dealer in Paris, while older son Roderick's a military man, an officer in one of Britain's most prestigious regiments. In October 1987, the 2 sons make a surprise trip home for their mother's 48th birthday. They take Nicholas and Elizabeth to one of Jersey's finest restaurants, where they dine on lobster and lavish desserts. The champagne flows freely at the sumptuous dinner.
to be all back in the one place again.
But this will be the family's last supper together.
And after that meal, Elizabeth and Nicholas Newell just disappeared from the face of the earth. They were never seen again.
Storm clouds are gathering over the tiny tax haven of Jersey. On October 15th, 1987, days after Elizabeth Newell's elaborate birthday bash, Jersey is hit by a hurricane. The island's grand mansions aren't the only casualties. Elizabeth and Nicholas Newell also seem to have gone with the wind.
The great storm disrupted everything. Trees were down, lines were down, communications were very, very bad.
As Jersey's wealthy elite survey the damage and start calling their insurance brokers, the Newells are missing in action.
They had missed appointments for the doctor, for the optician.
People get concerned, you know, Jersey's a very small place.
Many assume the hurricane took their wealthy friends.
Nicholas! Elizabeth! Is anybody there?
There were people who thought that they would have gone walking on the cliffs and been swept off during the storm.
Jersey's rugged hills are riddled with abandoned World War II bunkers.
And every now and then people would go into them and get stuck, so they thought maybe they had gone missing in one of those.
A meticulous search turns up nothing. But Jersey police do find a fascinating plot in the Newells' finances. In the past year, their assets have also started to disappear.
I think it's fair to say that they had run into financial difficulty with their investments.
A year earlier, Nicholas and Elizabeth sold off the family mansion to close friends.
To freedom?
To freedom.
The couple moved into a modest bungalow.
If you make the contrast between the two properties of this stunning residence at Greve de Lec and the rather run-down, grim house, is really quite staggering, the contrast.
Why the humiliating downgrade? It seems a series of bad investments meant the Newells' wealth was draining away. Could this have anything to do with their disappearance? Perhaps the couple simply boarded their yacht and sailed away to a new life.
They've either done a runner or it's a financial issue.
They thought maybe they had faked their own disappearance. In mysteries, people have disappeared sometimes for an insurance claim.
Could it be an insurance scam? Sons Roderick and Mark can offer no clues. They'd flown back to London the day after Elizabeth's birthday dinner. And now, as the mystery deepens, the boys return to Jersey to defend their parents' name.
There's absolutely no reason whatsoever for my parents to go without leaving word.
After a series of dead ends, everyone on this Jersey shore is left wondering, did nature really take the Newells? Were they even dead? Local police want answers, so they call in forensic investigators from Scotland Yard. And as they comb the storm-damaged bungalow, they find the first clue.
All around the fireplace, there were tiny, tiny, dark brown stains and marks.
After they'd ripped up the carpets and found that there was still blood underneath the carpets, then that was the scene, and the thing was treated entirely differently after that.
Bloodstains, and not just around the fireplace.
They were all over the shop, all over the house. Blood had seeped in between the parquet flooring and into the underlay of the house.
Blood in the living room matches Nicholas Newell's. In the bedroom, a positive match for Elizabeth. Something terrible has transpired.
A sustained episode of violence had taken place in the house. And that was when the nature of the case transferred from being a missing persons case into a double murder.
A Jersey court declares Nicholas and Elizabeth Newell officially dead. Their two grieving sons inherit what's left of their fortune. Cautious Mark, with his business acumen, invests his inheritance. And Roderick, he buys a yacht to sail around the world, intent on washing away his tragic loss.
He said, look, I'm just going to have a fresh break, a new beginning. I'm going to turn the page with all of this and start a new life.
As the boys console themselves with what's left of the family fortune, investigators ramp up their search. And it pays off in dense woodland near the Newells' former mansion.
Suddenly we're looking around and there's the remnants of a fire.
In the ashes of a bonfire, more intriguing clues.
Spectacles that had been prescribed to Nicholas.
Nicholas Newell's glasses and Elizabeth Newell's handbag. Police dig up the site, expecting to find human remains. They find nothing. Without bodies, the case drags on for 5 years. But over time, more family secrets bubble to the surface.
I think the parents were, like a lot of British people, a little bit cold and remote.
There wasn't a lot of love shown there.
It seems Mark and Roderick Newell had a rocky relationship with their parents. Mark's childhood friend Nick Simon says the Newell boys were banished to boarding school at a young age.
I think from the age of 8, quite sort of harsh upbringing, you know. So 8 years old is quite young to go to school by yourself.
When they weren't away at boarding school, the boys spent holidays at their uncle's home in Scotland.
For weeks at a time in the summer, whilst the parents, who were consumed with their own lives, got on with enjoying themselves in Jersey.
The children were not a nuisance exactly, but they weren't completely included into the embrace of the family.
Did the boys have a vendetta against their parents? They were the last people to see them alive. One person who doesn't trust them is Nicholas Newell's brother, Stephen.
Uncle Stephen, Nicholas's identical twin brother, always suspected the boys. Suspicions are not enough. He needed hard evidence.
Stephen is approached by police with a plan. He arranges a rendezvous with Roderick Newell at a Scottish hotel, with cops recording every word.
My brief to Stephen had been, don't, under any circumstances, lead him down the path because this will end up inadmissible. Let him do the talking.
And Roderick has plenty to talk about. In a cozy hotel in Scotland, 5 years after his parents' murder, Roderick Newell peers into the face of his dead father.
Uncle Stephen, Nicholas's identical twin brother.
Roderick has something to get off his chest.
I killed them.
This most compelling confession to double murder. He knows exactly where his parents are buried.
You don't talk about bodies being found easily unless you know where they are.
Roderick has no idea his uncle is wired, and police are standing by to arrest him. After pouring his heart out, he quickly wraps it up.
Roderick composes himself and then takes his leave after admitting, it would appear, to killing his parents.
After the meeting, Roderick uses his military training to disappear.
I don't know how it happened, but Roderick, a bright lad, he gave the police the slip, and he sped off into the night.
Roderick takes flight on the high seas, sailing his yacht into international waters. Jersey police launch a worldwide manhunt.
Interpol, GCHQ, the spy headquarters, the FBI, everybody's looking for Roderick.
With Roderick on the run, cops contact his brother Mark in Paris, but he's keeping tight-lipped.
Mark, meanwhile, had not said a word to anybody.
A few weeks later, Roderick's yacht is spotted off Gibraltar, a British outpost in the Mediterranean Sea. Police use the Royal Navy to set a trap, waving him down for a routine customs check.
He then got into a little rowing boat. He climbed up to get onto the ship itself. On the way up, a member of the Royal Gibraltar Police said to him, "Boy, have we got a surprise for you."
After years of intrigue, Jersey's most famous murder case is about to be solved. Roderick Newell is charged with double murder. When he arrives back on Jersey, Roderick tells all, revealing a sorry tale of greed played out the night of Elizabeth Newell's birthday dinner.
After the meal, they went back to the house. There was some more drinking apparently that went on, although apparently that night Mark didn't join in the drinking.
Mark returns to his apartment on the island, leaving Roderick alone with his parents, a decision that might have cost them their lives.
Roderick says that an argument developed during the meal, and then the argument continued afterwards at the family home.
Roderick is furious that Nicholas and Elizabeth have sold the family mansion.
And now you're squandering our inheritance.
I am your father, and you will show me some respect.
I have no respect for you.
Roderick flipped. He had a history of flipping. He was a hothead. He was a bit of a wild boy. He had a temper.
He's also trained in martial arts and grabs a set of Japanese rice flails, or nunchucks.
In the army, Roderick learnt every aspect about what it entails to be an officer, which of course involves training how to kill people. But it was certainly a very violent death. There were lots of blood all over the shop, unfortunately.
After attacking his parents, Roderick says he passed out. He's been drinking heavily. Only when he wakes does he realize what he's done.
Roderick can't even remember the details, but something went down. 2 people were dead.
He calls the only person left to turn to, his younger brother, Mark.
Hello? I killed him. What do you mean? I remember hitting him, but I don't remember hitting her. Are you sure that they're dead? Yes, I'm sure!
He had to weigh up in 1 second the loyalty to his parents and the loyalty to his brother.
Calm down. I'll have to kill myself. No! I'm coming over now. Don't do anything.
Mark doesn't call the police. He helps with the cover-up.
They were tied and wrapped in plastic sheeting. They were transported in a van, which they hired, and they were still in the clothes from the dinner party.
The boys take their mother and father to where it all began, near their childhood home of Crow's Nest.
And there, they buried their parents and threw them into these graves, covered up, and off they went. And that's where they languished for some 5 years or so.
The brothers then return to the bungalow to scrub the crime scene.
A major attempted cleanup took place at the house.
Come on, leave it. It's good enough. Let's go. Leave it.
The heating must have been turned on to dry out not just the carpet, but the bed linen, which had been washed, but in a very kind of young mannish guy sort of way. It hadn't been properly done.
They also turn up the heat by building a bonfire to burn the remaining evidence. The boys leave the island, and days later, the great storm helps cover their tracks.
The scene where they were buried could well have been visited much sooner by people who walked that area had it not been for the storm. Those bodies were well buried. Only an army officer, I reckon, could have done that in the middle of the night.
After Roderick's detailed confession to the cops, his brother Mark finally admits he helped dispose of his parents' bodies. Roderick directs detectives to the burial site, where the bodies of Nicholas and Elizabeth Newell are recovered. In August 1994, Roderick Newell pleads guilty to double murder and receives 2 life sentences. Mark pleads guilty to being an accessory to murder twice and receives 2 concurrent 6-year terms. But good breeding and good behavior pay dividends, even in prison. After just 20 months in Her Majesty's custody, Mark Newell is released. His brother, the killer, he's a model prisoner and is set free 12 years into his life sentence.
And so they're out and leading their lives, maybe under new identities, anonymously. But who can put that sort of event just behind you?
Family can bring us together, but it can also tear us apart. Frances Schroeder sacrificed her father and son to fund her lavish life. Roderick Newell's greed sparked a storm of terror. Both favored fortune over family, but in the end, they too were betrayed by their own flesh and blood. Till next time we meet behind mansion walls, I'm Christopher Mason.
In our first story, Behind Mansion Walls,
he felt like the devil had walked in his door.
he was to the manner brawn. She had the face of an angel.
When we discovered what happened, this went from being a non-story to being the story.
And later,
He was going to inherit £15 million fortune.
the heir with a golden ticket is dealt a cruel hand.
A stranger had broken into the house and killed his wife.
I'm Christopher Mason. Being born into a wealthy dynasty can be a blessing and a burden. When you can afford to indulge your every whim, events can spiral out of control. Too much time and money, not enough common decency. Beware the heir to misfortune.
beautiful girl, a bright future.
Her life was limitless. She was going to do great things.
Want to celebrate?
But Diana DeMeo is about to make a fatal mistake.
She made a bad choice. It cost her life.
In gyms across the nation, Americans are sweating, and they're paying for it. Fitness is a $17 billion industry that's doubled in the last decade. 40 million Americans are health club members.
I got the sites for the 2 new gyms.
To those running the show, pumping iron is like printing money.
Looking at it from the outside, Peter Davish had it all.
I want them open by the end of the month.
The scion of a major gym fortune.
Peter Davish's dad muscled his way into the booming Detroit gym industry and made millions.
Peter's father had a bit of a passion with weightlifting, and he turned that into an empire that consisted of more than 300 gyms and apparel, a hugely popular gym franchise in the Midwest.
Now, his son Peter is a big fish, in more ways than one.
He was huge. Weightlifter. He was born and raised in the gym culture. He had the money. He had a nice car.
We found that he had a very privileged upbringing, very posh background he came from. He lived a very luxurious lifestyle.
In early 2010, moneyed and muscled Peter starts hanging out with his former classmate, Diana DeMeo.
They knew one another in high school. She went away to college to the University of Miami, and she did very well there.
Diana was just like a great kid. She was a million friends. Everybody wanted to be with her. She's just a magnet for people.
Now back in Detroit, Diana's renewed her friendship with Peter. She wants him to meet her dad.
So this is great.
So, Dad, we've got something to tell you.
The couple has exciting news.
Good news?
Yes.
Diana has a dream of creating a rescue shelter for dogs.
No. You've been wanting to do that all your life.
Generous Peter is only too happy to front the cash.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Fantastic.
But while Diana seems the ideal all-American girl, everything's not perfect behind the scenes.
I knew she smoked pot, and I knew she took anti-anxiety medication because she had a little bit of anxiety.
The animal shows.
Diana's bright future could be under threat from drugs. And the danger from illicit drugs is rising as the once great city of Detroit crumbles around her. Motor City has become Murder City. On the streets and in the decaying suburbs, there's a homicide every day. But Peter offers her an escape. An ivory tower, high above the dangers of the streets.
It was a very luxurious apartment. Local athletes, sports stars, and celebrities reside at that apartment.
This is where Detroit's elite choose to live. People like gym tycoon Peter Davish.
Every morning.
In March 2010, he rents a luxury apartment. Diana DeMeo helps him move in.
Oh my God.
It was a very nice apartment. There isn't a whole lot of upscale in Detroit, but this was definitely one of them.
The young heir is already used to living the high life.
He was driving a luxury car when he was in high school. He had his own apartment when he was in high school. So as you can imagine, a person who's 24 years old having the access to that kind of money.
Now he has a beautiful young woman to share it with.
And 2 different lifestyles basically came together.
This could be the perfect start for both of them. But just hours later, something goes wrong.
911, what's your emergency? At approximately 6:19 in the morning, Peter Davish called 911.
Yeah, I need some help.
and he indicated that Diana was overdosing.
Get in quick!
Peter said she overdosed on her anxiety medication and had fallen.
Injured and unconscious, Diana is rushed to the hospital. Her mom, Linda, receives the phone call every mother dreads.
We were told that it was a drug overdose. She was in Detroit receiving on life support. And I was like, can't be. You know, this can't be. And I just kept saying, you know, but she'll come out of it, right? It's just a coma. She'll come out of this, right? They finally convinced me that she was never coming back.
And I think the family is faced with the worst decision any family could be faced with.
So we turned off the machines, and that was it that night, that Thursday night. It was horrendous for everybody. We were just all in shock. You know, it's just not what you ever think's gonna happen to your kid.
A week later, friends and family gathered to commemorate Diana's life.
There was maybe 500 people came through the wake. You know, they all just thought that she died, you know, of a drug overdose.
But is that the real story?
The day of the wake, the funeral director called me and he said, I just got the death certificate and it has a cause of death on it.
What that certificate says will shake Detroit to its foundations.
When we discovered what happened, this went from being a non-story to being the story.
To escape the mean streets of Detroit, some of the wealthy choose to live in sky-high luxury apartments, where the sirens are muffled and the gunshots far away. But up there in the clouds, they're not immune from tragedy or from crime.
In March 2010, in a luxury Detroit apartment, promising college graduate Diana DeMeo is found unconscious. She later dies at just 23. Her friend Peter Davish tells a tragic story of her last moments.
He indicated that she was suicidal, that he had knives in the apartment that night, that because he feared that she was suicidal, he had taken all the knives and thrown them out of the window.
Peter says Diana had then taken a prescription drug overdose and had a horrific fall.
This was an overdose, potentially a suicide attempt. She had fallen.
That she was bleeding from her nose, she was bleeding from her eyes.
Come on, please!
And he needed help right away.
On March 11th, 2010, Diana dies in the hospital. A week later, there is shocking news.
The day of the wake, as I was driving there, the funeral director called me and he said, I just got the death certificate and it has a cause of death on it, and I just wanted to tell you it's homicide. It was multiple blunt force trauma.
Peter Davish believes coroners have made a terrible mistake.
He said that Diana had inflicted these injuries on herself by falling repeatedly.
What really happened that night? To find the truth, police rush to Peter Davish's luxury apartment. They want to assess the crime scene, but there's a problem. It's clean and freshly decorated.
Because this case was not treated as a homicide initially, Peter was allowed free access to the apartment to come and go as he pleased.
Has Peter Davish cleaned up the evidence of a crime? Weeks earlier, Diana's dad had dinner with his daughter and Peter Davish. The gym tycoon didn't make the best impression.
Wait up. One.
He showed up late. He was stoned.
Yeah, just please.
You know, looked like smoking pot. But he seemed maybe more than that.
So,
Apologies. Do you want me to clean that up? Damn straight I want you to clean that up.
It's okay. It's just...
Okay.
There was friction between Mr. DeMeo and Peter Davish.
Can you just...
He could just tell
You get up!
that Peter was not right for his daughter.
But you can't convict based on a father's intuition. If Peter Davish is a killer, police need proof.
When the police did go back and start to investigate, they found that a cabinet door in the kitchen was removed and placed down into the storeroom. The police were able to go down, retrieve that door, and take it to the crime lab and determine that there were 3 distinct blows that impacted that door, causing the damage.
If the door was hit by Diana's head as she slumped to the floor, why were there 3 separate impact points? Cops dig up Peter Davish's history, looking for anything that might suggest criminal tendencies.
Despite being raised with access to money and given much, he was always working a hustle, and drugs was one of them.
Turns out, if anyone has a problem with drugs, it's Peter Davish.
Drugs, pot, other substances were a theme in his life.
On the surface, that makes Peter's story of Diana's overdose even more plausible. She wouldn't be the first girl to be launched on the path to addiction by her lover. But there's a problem with that theory.
The medical examiner did a complete toxicology screen on the body and blood of Diana DeMeo. No opiates, no cocaine, no alcohol, no stimulants, nothing. There was nothing in her system whatsoever.
So what did cause Diana's death?
They found blunt force trauma to her shoulder, blunt force trauma to her eye, and they found 8 distinct areas of blunt force trauma to her head, causing a massive brain injury and bleeding.
The findings suggest Diana came to a violent end. And the testimonies of Peter's ex-girlfriends suggest he might be responsible.
And the investigation revealed he had an extensive misdemeanor record. In the past, he had became jealous over relationships, and he threatened to kill his girlfriends. So we were able to track down those women, and even though the relationships were over, they were still terrified of Peter Davish. They were scared to death of him.
Turns out, no one has anything good to say about the indulged Jim Scion.
You look for these little vignettes of humanity in someone's life, and I couldn't find any when it came to Peter Davish. People talked about their fear of him. People talked about drugs. They talked about alcohol. They talked about possessiveness. They talked about a bully.
So why would a girl with a soft heart for rescue pets be interested in a violent bully?
Linda DeMeo indicated that Diana always had a thing for strays, that she was always the type of person who wanted to fix people, and perhaps she felt that she could help Peter through all his problems.
They couldn't see why she was attracted to such a person. The only way to reconcile their relationship for many was to think she was probably trying to fix him, probably trying to insert some life into his life, probably trying to save him from himself.
For weeks, the idea that Diana's death might be a homicide goes unreported in Detroit. Television journalist Brad Edwards recalls hearing about the case for the first time.
It finally came into me as a tip from a cop source of mine. It said, "You're not going to believe this one. You've got this young, effervescent, beautiful honors graduate and an heir to a well-known gym fortune, and their 2 paths crossed in that high-rise. And to think of what actually happened in this case is still hard to believe."
3 weeks after Diana DeMeo's death, Peter Davish is charged with her murder. But some witnesses are too afraid to testify. Will the full story of what happened that night come out at the trial? And will prosecutors have enough evidence to lock away this privileged son?
And that was always a fear. He'd walk, and then the rest of our lives I'd worry about him going after us.
In 2010, Detroit is gripped by a story where wealth and violence collide.
Looking at it from the outside, Peter Davish had it all. Probably the quintessential silver spoon in his mouth type story. But his arc started very early on to turn dark.
When Ed DeMeo first met Jim tycoon Peter Davish, an ominous feeling came over him.
Can we just go back to dinner?
Mr. DeMeo indicated that when he first met Peter, he felt like the devil had walked in his door.
And now it appears Ed's instinct might be right. On March 31st, 2010, Peter Davish is arrested for the murder of Ed's daughter, Diana.
He really did have it all, but it's almost as if he was just predisposed to this darkness. You talk to person after person, they remark on how intimidating he was. There's no twinkle in the eyes. Dark. There's no life in the eyes, no glimmer.
Peter petitions for bail. His mom offers up her Farmington Hills mansion plus her mother's house as bond.
This is a young man who had known for years nothing but trouble. And when he was charged with first-degree murder, instantly, his mom put up the property to bail him out.
But despite Peter's mom's commitment, bail is refused. In the fall of 2010, Diana's mother, Linda, comes face to face with Peter Davish at his murder trial. She prays prosecutors can make the charges stick.
He just looked just like a big, monster. I couldn't believe that he could do that to my daughter. Like she was so sweet. I don't know, and she's always helping everybody. She was helping him that day.
Davish is not only facing the murder charge, prosecutors also want to hold him accountable for the suffering they say preceded it.
When a defendant inflicts cruel and extreme suffering on a person, you can charge torture.
The fact that it was first-degree felony murder and torture, that was upsetting, and I think that was only the second torture charge Detroit had ever had.
What did Diana go through that night? She's not around to answer, so it's up to prosecutor Lisa Lindsay to speak for her.
Peter had gotten into an argument with Diana concerning her contact with the bellman.
I saw you downstairs with the...
He believed she was flirting with the bellman.
You heard me. I saw you downstairs.
And he actually yelled and called her a whore.
You're a goddamn whore! You're a whore!
Abuse gives way to rage, then violence.
A young man with such rage attains this young, beautiful woman. And I don't think she was ever going to be able to get away from it.
Basically, he trapped her like an animal in a small corner of the apartment. Her injuries indicated that the beating happened over a prolonged period of time. This was not a rage situation where he beat her out of a rage and stopped. This indicated it went on for quite some time.
To think of her, how scared she must have been when he first started hitting her. And my only thing that got me through it is well, maybe she passed out after the first blow and then he just kept beating on her. I don't know.
When emergency services arrives, Davish blames the injuries on Diana herself.
Peter was apparently angry,
Even unconscious female, early 20s.
swearing at Diana to the officers.
Bitch overdosed. It's okay. It's okay, sir.
Saying that she overdosed, that you know.
She fell, hit her head.
Although they suspect this isn't an overdose, emergency personnel are focused on saving Diana's life.
I'm calling the medical evacuation.
One of the main concerns, and maybe why there were so many apparent oversights early on, is that she was alive and the goal was to save her life.
When Diana's in the hospital, Davish maintains the charade, trying to blame the fictional overdose on Diana's depression.
The only thing she overdosed on was Peter Davish.
Meanwhile, prosecutors believe Peter cleaned up the crime scene, but didn't do a thorough job.
There was blood spatter in an isolated corner of the apartment, and there was also blood spatter on the ceiling directly above where that corner was.
It's chilling proof of his terrible crime.
There were lots of signs at that point that there was blood everywhere and splatters on the wall, and, you know, it looked like a crime scene.
And it is our belief, based on the physical evidence and what happened, is that she just ran into that corner, was cowering, and Peter stood over her and pummeled her.
Diana endures his savage blows, not for seconds or minutes, but for hours.
Diana had both fresh and dried blood on her body, which would indicate that there was some period of time between the initial infliction of injuries and then new infliction of more injuries.
We know she died of multiple blunt force strikes. And there was no murder weapon. You know, there's no bat, no hammer. Police think he did this with his bare hands. And he is a massive guy. And she's just a little gal, 110 pounds, 5'1", this petite little gal, and this giant monster.
At the trial, Peter Davish's violent past is finally laid out for all to see.
The other thing that was really upsetting was to see the parade of girls take the witness stand that had already had protection orders against him. And almost all of them looked exactly like Diana to me.
Wealth might have protected him before, but this time, Peter Davish can't buy his way out of trouble.
When the jury received this case, they were very quick to decide. Guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of torture.
So he was still, up until that point, he thought he was going to get off. And I think he was shocked.
Rich or poor, that type of person is destined to go to jail.
The judge sentences Peter Davish to a mandatory life sentence, plus 23 to 80 years for torture. He will spend the rest of his life behind bars.
When she sentenced him, she said, this is a case of over-privileged, under-checked behavior for too long.
He was never held responsible for anything he had done until this point, and now he's paying the ultimate price.
For the mother of Diana DeMeo, justice is welcomed, but can never bring her daughter back.
Time helps, a little. I mean, I'll never forget her. It's hard for me when I see her friends, like, having babies and getting married and having careers and, you know, doing everything that she was supposed to be doing. That part's hard.
Linda DeMeo has experienced pain no mother should have to endure.
And it's just terrible when a parent has to bury their child.
It was so dark and so horrifying. I think the only way to make any meaning out of it is through faith.
That's what gets me through. I think if I didn't have the faith I had in God, I wouldn't be able to get through it. In the court, I had rosaries with me, and I actually have rosaries that were made from roses that were on her casket, and I got them right before the trial.
Those memories of her daughter have given her strength through all the dark days that followed.
And I felt like she was with me, you know, she was with me. And I do feel like she's with me sometimes, you know. I feel like she gives me the strength to speak out, because I really never thought I could do public speaking, but I can do that now. My goal is to get young girls to understand that there are these people out there and they'll act really charming, but if they're being controlling and keeping everything secretive, there's a chance this could happen to you.
Diana DeMeo was fond of caring for stray beasts. She never expected that one of them would wind up killing her. Peter Davish proves that a moneyed inheritance can spawn a bad seed. A seed that can flourish in a Detroit penthouse or an English mansion.
New Year's Eve, 1999. In London, England, Alan and Nadine Phillips have two reasons to celebrate.
Cheers, Happy New Year.
It's the dawn of a new millennium and their 7th wedding anniversary.
To the outsider, it would have appeared that the Phillips had a very happy marriage. They had an extravagant lifestyle. They had no money worries. They lived in a large house.
On New Year's Eve, 1992, Alan and Nadine had the perfect white wedding in the Royal Borough of Kensington.
They did have a very romantic start to their marriage.
They travel the world, then settle into wedded bliss in the distinguished streets of southwest London, just steps from the exclusive King's Road.
Nadine and Alan Phillips were upper-class people. They lived in Fulham, which is famously what we call a Sloaney neighborhood of London.
Oh, yes. Yes, and I love...
Alan Phillips, he was from a very wealthy family. His wife went to the gym at Princess Diana's gym, the Harbour Club.
You know, we met him.
She certainly moved in those kinds of exclusive circles.
She was very charming, attractive, full of life, very sociable.
Incredibly, this fabulous lifestyle is all paid for by hot air.
Most pubs in Britain, when you went into them, had a hand dryer in them where you push the button and you dry your hands.
Alan's dad made $40 million from supplying hand dryers. When he dies and bequeaths his fortune, Alan and his wife will never need to get their hands dirty.
He was going to inherit £15 million fortune.
While they wait for the inheritance, the couple establishes a successful childcare business.
They were a wealthy couple in their own right. They'd recently sold a nursery for a significant sum of money.
Those had been sold for $2 million, and they had something like £400,000 in their bank account.
Oh, really?
Money in the bank and a huge inheritance on the way. By their mid-30s, the Phillips have a glorious future laid out before them.
From the outside, they did give the appearances of being almost the perfect couple. They had a beautiful house in Fulham, 3 happy, healthy girls, and as much money as most people could ever wish for.
But just over 4 months after this Millennium Eve, the Phillips' future will be in ruins. If there's a downside to being rich, it's that you also become a target. Alan Phillips is paranoid the walls of his £1 million mansion will be breached by thieves. Detective Inspector Mike Smith says the well-to-do heir went to great lengths to protect his family.
The house had bars on the windows, CCTV monitor on the door, multiple locks on the front door, an alarm system.
It was clear that Mr. Phillips was very concerned about the security of both himself and his family.
The most secure area in the lavish townhouse is Alan's upstairs office.
His room on the top floor was like a safe room. It had a really thick steel door to it with multiple locks.
On May 15th, 2000, Alan is working late into the night.
It was soundproofed. He could lock himself away in there and not know what's going on anywhere else in the house.
At midnight, Alan goes downstairs and discovers the front door open. It's unusual, but there's nothing to suggest an intruder. After locking up, Alan decides to sleep in his office. It's late. He doesn't want to disturb his sleeping wife downstairs. But tonight, nothing could wake his sweet Nadine.
English businessman Alan Phillips is indeed a fortunate man. Already worth millions, he's about to inherit another 20 million or so. But as this wealthy heir will soon discover, no amount of cash can cushion you from heartbreak.
Tuesday, May 16th, 2000, is a busy school morning, whether you're a multimillionaire or not.
Just make sure you're all separate today.
He got up in the morning,
Okay, what have you got for lunch today?
dealt with the children.
Make sure you have this banana, it's very healthy for you. I know you do.
The oldest one was collected by a bus driver and taken to school.
Hello, Tony. How are you?
He loved his kids. He was devoted to his children.
With his eldest daughter on her way to school, Alan goes to wake Nadine.
And he went up to his wife's room. And found her lying in the bath.
Darling. Nadine, what happened? Wake up, darling.
Mr.
Nadine.
Phillips had called the London Ambulance Service just before 11 o'clock in the morning to report his wife collapsed in the bath.
My wife, she's lying in the bathtub and she's unconscious. No, she's
The
not breathing.
paramedics deduced from the rigor mortis that she'd been dead for some hours.
At first, Alan can't recall anything unusual about the previous evening.
I don't know what.
He said he'd been in bed from early evening in his room on the top floor while his wife and children slept on the first floor.
The young mother is pronounced dead from drowning. But Detective Sergeant Steve Smith soon realizes this is no accident.
Upon examination of the body, we found some linear bruising towards the top of the arm above the elbow, which we couldn't really interpret what had caused those marks.
Alan can't explain the marks either. Then he remembers something. Last night, there'd been an unexpected visitor at his mansion door.
Alan Phillips' story to the police was that the night before, at about 8:30, there'd been a knock on the door from a black man who he described as an evil weirdo.
I brought you firewood, you never paid me. I brought you firewood.
He said that his wife had had an altercation with an Afro-Caribbean man sometime during the evening.
Suddenly, Alan recalls something that happened later that night. Something that seemed unimportant at the time, but may now hold deadly significance.
He had described finding the door open. He suggested that an intruder had got into the house.
Did the stranger return in the early hours and gain access to the Phillips mansion? Could Nadine's death be the result of a botched robbery attempt?
It was early to late evening. She was getting ready for bed when she was attacked.
Upstairs, alone in his soundproofed office, Alan wouldn't have heard a thing.
He was alone in bed on the top floor and came down in the morning to find his wife lying in the bath, so somebody must have broken in and committed the offence.
It seems the worst fears of security-conscious Alan have been realized. And the safety of this silk-stocking neighborhood has been pierced by a killer from the outside.
Fulham's an affluent area, very rarely has any serious crimes.
But just a year earlier, just a mile away, in one of Britain's most shocking unsolved crimes, wealthy celebrity Jill Dando was murdered on her Fulham doorstep. Is there a deranged killer stalking Fulham's well-heeled women?
Police made extensive inquiries in an effort to establish whether or not there were any active nighttime burglars in the area or whether any intruders had been disturbed in the locality.
Police start searching for an outsider. But could there be a simpler explanation? Could the killer be someone closer to home?
He said the marriage was perfectly happy. He loved his kids, was devoted to his children.
Cops ask Alan if his marriage was so perfect, why were they sleeping in separate beds? Alan says it's because he's a light sleeper.
He was only spent one night a week in his wife's bedroom because he couldn't bear the noise of the children.
But there's another reason they weren't sleeping together.
we went around.
Friends tell cops that 3 years earlier, Alan caught his wife cheating with a city financier.
Remember that?
Nadine had had an affair. This was something which enraged Alan Phillips.
So, although the outward appearances were nice and happy, inwardly, obviously there was problems at home.
It became apparent from the testimony of friends that trust was never really re-established between the two, and the marriage remained in I think, a very tense and difficult state.
She told a friend she wasn't happy in the marriage, and she'd actually consulted a solicitor about a divorce.
Divorce? For Alan, that could mean sharing half his inheritance. Are police honing in on a motive for murder? Meanwhile, a forensics team examining Nadine's body are still pondering the cause of mysterious bruises, and they make a breakthrough.
The 2 parallel bruise marks on the elbows were consistent with the handcuffs.
It appears Nadine was handcuffed and held underwater until she drowned. But where are the handcuffs now? Were they brought in by an intruder who took them with him when he fled?
There didn't appear to be anything immediately available at the crime scene that could be responsible for causing those marks.
While cops search for the cuffs, they also search for the intruder, going from mansion to stately mansion.
But all these inquiries drew a blank.
Strangely, no one recalls Alan's evil weirdo lurking in this grand neighborhood.
There was nothing to verify or back up Alan Phillips' story about the confrontation that night.
2 other things puzzle police. If it was a bungled burglary, why is nothing missing from the £1 million mansion? And why hasn't the burglar left a trace?
They could find no evidence of forced entry, no evidence of trampling in the garden, and that definitely, I think, led to suspicions that his story didn't really stack up.
Police take Alan Phillips down to the station for more in-depth questioning. But the formerly talkative husband has fallen strangely silent.
If you're a grieving husband, you would have thought you'd do everything you could to ascertain who had murdered your wife. And saying no comment to every question is not too helpful.
Back at the house, cops scour every inch of the Phillips mansion. And down in the basement, they find items unbecoming of an upper-class English gent.
Leather belts, whips.
We found in a bag marked fancy dress.
A lavish wedding in 1992 held such promise for Alan Phillips and his blushing bride Nadine. But just 7 years later, in a posh suburb of southwest London, Nadine is found dead in the bath. She's drowned, but there's evidence of foul play.
We found some linear bruising towards the top of the arm above the elbow.
Police have a chilling suspicion the marks were made by handcuffs. But where are those handcuffs now?
And while searching the house in the basement, we found a bag marked fancy dress.
Nadine's husband, Alan, says the bag's contents are his.
Leather belts, whips, and other bits and pieces which he'd collected from his student punk days.
And the bag contains something else.
These handcuffs fitted the marks on the arms. It was at that stage when police were fairly sure that the murderer came from within the house.
With no evidence of an intruder in the house and the handcuffs discovered in Alan's own bag, police charged the millionaire with the murder of his wife. But Alan continues to claim a lone intruder is the real killer.
He'd also kept a collection of press cuttings of other intruder murders and intruder dangers from around the local area, apparently to bolster his case that an intruder had broken in and committed the murder.
In court, the prosecution lays out what they believe happened on the night of May 15th, 2000.
The last time we can prove Nadine Phillips was alive was 8:37 in the evening when she spoke to a friend on the telephone.
Sometime before midnight, Alan lies in wait for his wife.
We could only surmise that she was running a bath in her ensuite bathroom when Alan Phillips attacked her. And he half throttled her, so she was semi-conscious, handcuffed her, then held her under the water.
No! You did this to us! Look out, Paul!
The only thought you can have for what's going through Nadine Phillips's mind at this point is sheer terror. It appeared that Alan Phillips took the handcuffs off his wife's body and put them in a plastic bag in the cellar.
And went off to his bedroom, leaving the kids presumably asleep on the first floor while he was in his soundproofed room on the second floor.
Just before 8 a.m. the next morning, prosecutors say Alan calmly prepares their 6-year-old daughter for school.
So Daddy got her ready for school and off she went in the bus.
It's believed Alan's desire to kill was sparked by his wife's threat of divorce.
We believe it was the fact that he was going to inherit roughly about £15 million. And if he went through a messy divorce, he would obviously lose quite a bit of his inheritance.
For Alan Phillips, money really was the root of all evil.
There was £2 or £3 million worth of assets to share between them. The fact that his father was about to die and leave him a substantial sum of money would most probably be taken into account by the court because Nadine would most probably get custody of the 3 children.
And perhaps he felt that if he didn't act, she might leave him. She might take those 3 beautiful girls away.
And if handcuffs and a motive aren't enough to sway the jury, prosecutors have one more ace up their sleeves. Alan Phillips' own words.
Speaking to friends afterwards, he'd said that rather than go through a messy divorce and lose his kids or risk losing his kids, he'd kill his wife. And he even told one friend he'd say a stranger broke in and killed her while he was asleep in his room. That is what he told us. A stranger had broken into the house and killed his wife.
At the time, no one could have believed it was a chilling prophecy.
He talked menacingly with her friends that if he ever found out she was having an affair, he would kill her. And they thought she was joking, and then they suddenly weren't so sure.
Behind it all is a man whose world is spinning out of control.
What emerged was a picture of a man wanting to cling on, wanting to control everything, and finding things slipping out of his control. As the witnesses came forward and started to sketch out the character of this very controlling man, and as the police explained how there was no evidence of breaking and entry into the property, it was fairly clear that the case was heading in one direction, and that was Alan Phillips's conviction.
Throughout the trial, the 36-year-old heir maintains his innocence.
He wasn't remorseful and maintained throughout that it was a stranger that broke into his house. And he thought that he was too intelligent to be convicted. But he was sadly wrong from his own point of view.
In November 2000, 6 months after Nadine's death, Alan Phillips is found guilty of murder. The judge labels the heir a cold-blooded killer.
When the verdict was read out guilty, he collapsed in a chair. Couldn't believe that he'd been found out, if you like. I understand he had a celebration party already booked for his acquittal. So it was a bit of a shock to him.
As he stands before the judge to be sentenced, Alan finally comes clean. He admits the death of his wife came by his own evil hand.
He subsequently confessed. The judge wasn't too impressed that he was remorseful and thought he'd confessed just purely to lessen his sentence.
It doesn't work. The judge sentences Alan to life in prison. The fairy tale marriage that promised so much delivers only tragedy. A mother snatched from her children by the hand of greed.
Clearly the most disturbing part of this crime was the three girls who were left behind, who no longer had a mother and had a father who they will know was convicted of their mother's murder.
And his claim was that he was dedicated to his children, but in fact, he didn't care what happened to them because of the actions he took, all for the sake of money.
In a final twist, while Alan is in custody, his rich father dies, giving Alan the dubious honor of being Britain's richest inmate.
He was going to inherit a fortune, and this was, as one newspaper said, Britain's richest convict.
A huge inheritance is a passport to privilege, but a rich birthright can also be a deadly curse. Peter Davish turned from indulged heir to brutal assassin, and Alan Phillips chose murder over sharing his millions. When these wealthy sons stained their family tree with blood, they both became heirs to misfortune. Till next time we meet behind mansion walls, I'm Christopher Mason.
In our first story, Behind Mansion Walls, he gave away a fortune.
There you go. You get it all back with interest. Well over $20 million.
Then funded his own murder.
To be able to do that to somebody, unspeakable.
And later,
It's great to be here.
And they were going to go home and make love.
a romantic drive takes a horrifying turn.
There's no way anybody could have survived a crash like this.
Oh, God! I'm Christopher Mason. The well-off in this world are truly blessed. Beautiful cars, magnificent art collections, sprawling estates. But some of society's finest are addicted to wealth. And the only way to get another quick fix is to kill. Because having it all is never enough.
A millionaire businessman enjoys another successful lunch. Not making money, but spending it.
The greatest single contributor to charitable causes in Canada.
This tycoon donates a fortune to good causes. But even when you're saving the world, not everyone thinks you're a hero.
The gunman was lying in wait and ambushed him.
One of the downsides of being filthy rich is there's never enough time. All the black tie functions, glamorous cocktail parties. It's hard work making sure one is seen in all the right places. Unless, that is, you don't want to be seen.
Mr. Davis was a wonderful person. He was generous, he was kind, he was compassionate, he was caring.
What Canadian multi-millionaire Glenn Davis doesn't care for is the limousine lifestyle of the mega-rich.
We'll start here and trek down to the Lake of Two Rivers.
Sounds like a plan.
Rather than hobnobbing at gala events, he prefers hiking in the vast Canadian wilderness.
Glenn Davis would regularly spend 3 months at a time up in the Yukon and Northwest Territories, northern region of Canada.
The 66-year-old and his wife have no children. Instead, he lavishes attention on his godson, 37-year-old Marshall Ross.
There was a close familial relationship between them.
Take a look.
Well, Mr. Davis and Marshall Ross were actually second cousins, but their relationship was very much big brother, little brother. He always sort of looked out for Marshall when he was growing up, took Marshall on a number of outdoor adventures, took him skiing, introduced him to the wilderness up in Alaska, down to the Grand Canyon.
And I think he saw in Marshall kind of a young protege, someone he was trying to mentor.
Glenn Davis wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he was given one soon after. As an infant, he was adopted by wealthy businessman Nelson Morgan Davis, who built an empire of more than 40 companies.
Everything from truck lines to car dealerships to property development management. N.M. Davis Corporation was worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
The Davis family was waited on hand and foot by servants in this sprawling 29-room Georgian-style mansion in East Toronto. Longtime Davis employee and family friend Keith Jones says Glenn grew up in the lap of luxury.
Mr. Davis had a very privileged upbringing. Of course, he also went to private schools, so he had all the advantages that his father could afford for him at that time.
But it seems privilege and pain go hand in hand. Glenn's life is plagued by trauma and tragedy. In 1969, his cousin Mary is kidnapped and held for ransom.
That turned out to be one of her former boyfriends. It was resolved. They arrested the people who kidnapped her. She was returned safely, and they got back all of the cash.
10 years later, his father Nelson drowns in his swimming pool. And in June 1983, an event that changes Glenn's life forever.
Glenn Davis was aboard an Air Canada flight. The cabin suddenly filled with smoke, and the plane was forced to make an emergency landing in Cincinnati, Ohio. When the plane landed on the tarmac, it burst into flames.
23 people die in the blaze. Glenn Davis is among the handful of survivors. Many say that brush with death shifted Glenn's focus from financial to philanthropic.
His philosophy in life really was, to whom much is given, much is expected.
He transformed himself from a businessman worried about acquiring and accumulating wealth to someone who was going to distribute wealth to help worthy causes. He donated well over $20 million.
One person to benefit from Glenn Davis's largesse is Marshall Ross. In 2004, Glenn agrees to bankroll his godson's new business venture.
Marshall Ross's business was the renovation business.
A good business plan, my boy. I like it.
His idea was to buy houses, renovate them, and flip them.
Glenn has every confidence in his protege and kicks in a cool $2.5 million.
There you go. Here you get it all back with interest.
Mr. Davis was, in effect, Marshall Ross's banker.
With his intense love for the environment, Glenn plunges most of his greenbacks into green causes.
I think we should preserve.
Mr. Davis really felt that we should be saving just millions and millions of acres of pristine wilderness for future generations.
On May 18, 2007, Glenn meets a friend from a wildlife charity for lunch. On the menu, another chunk of the Davis fortune.
He attends the business meeting,
Just absolutely wonderful.
having lunch and talking over a donation that he was going to make for one of the environmental causes.
After lunch, in the underground parking, the millionaire has another rendezvous. Only this one is unexpected.
He fired the first shot into Glenn Davis's chest. Glenn Davis fell to his knees and was begging for his life.
Please don't kill me. And then, of course, he was shot.
They tell us that there has been a shooting, and indeed, Mr. Davis has died. It's like it was yesterday, but it seems so long ago. You're stunned. You can't even begin to accept it. You're just stunned.
Once the terrible news is sunk in, the family is certain they know who's responsible.
We thought it was anti-environment people. Because Mr. Davis, of course, was very instrumental in getting land saved up in the Yukon and Alaska and the Arctic so that they wouldn't be exploited by mining and oil drilling and things like that.
No, please.
Have Glenn's efforts to save Canada's wilderness cost him his life?
Typical, isn't it? You give away millions of dollars to help protect the environment. What is your reward? You get shot down in cold blood. Was Glenn Davis killed by a rabid anti-environmentalist?
His family certainly thinks so. Glenn dedicated his life to protecting resource-rich land like the Yukon. Was a rogue land corporation so desperate to develop a slice of this valuable wilderness, it gunned down its greatest savior? As Toronto police seek out leads, the mild-mannered millionaire is mourned by devastated family and friends. Wearing his godfather's favorite hiking hat, an emotional Marshall Ross delivers a heartfelt eulogy.
Not only our family, the whole country has lost a wonderful man.
And lays his benefactor to rest.
Marshall, being the godson, Mrs. Davis had asked him if he would place Mr. Davis in the ground.
Investigators identify one suspect within the Davis family.
Michael Schell was Glenn Davis's nephew.
Schell had waged a bitter court battle with his uncle.
Michael Schell sued Glenn Davis because he believed that his mother's share of the estate should have been much bigger. And in turn, he should benefit to a much greater extent than he already did for Nelson Morgan Davis's death.
Just 3 months before the shooting, Michael Schell's lawsuit was thrown out of court. Could that have provoked him to murder?
Michael Schell had become a person of interest to our investigation. And the more we looked into him, the more we were able to satisfy ourselves that he didn't have the means, the knowledge, nor was he present in Toronto at the time of the murder. And he was quickly eliminated as a suspect in our investigation.
Well, what's interesting to note is that Michael Schell's lawyer sent his bill to Mr. Davis because Michael was destitute. He couldn't pay the bill, and Mr. Davis paid the bill. That's the kind of guy he was. Just, let it go. Just let it go.
Detectives soon discover this isn't the first mysterious attack on the millionaire. On December 21st, 2005, outside his office in Midtown Toronto, Glenn Davis is the victim of a brutal beating.
And Mr. Davis was yelling at him, "What do you want? What do you want?" But he just kept beating him with the baseball bat.
It's over as quickly as it started. The assailant suddenly flees.
Mr. Davis is laying there. Blood. You can't believe the blood. It was over 100 stitches to his head. His arm was busted in 4 places. They had to put steel pins and plates in his arm, but that's what saved his life, actually, being able to protect his head.
Was that attack part of a scare campaign staged by extremists in the Anti-Environment Brigade? If so, the beating and Glenn's shooting could be linked. 5 days after Glenn Davis's murder, a possible breakthrough. Security camera footage shows a mystery man prowling the parking structure.
Shortly after Glenn Davis was shot, this male was seen exiting the underground parking lot.
Is this the gunman? Toronto police released the footage, hoping someone will identify the suspect.
Despite numerous appeals to the public for the identity of the suspect, no new leads come into the investigative team.
Weeks turn into months. For Detective Sergeant Peter Morera and his team, frustration builds as the investigation goes cold.
I've never looked into somebody's background as closely as we looked into Glenn Davis. There was nothing at all that would, again, suggest or explain why Glenn Davis was targeted in the underground parking lot.
18 months pass. Then, in November 2008, a major turning point. Police arrest a small-time crook for robbery. Hoping to cut a deal, the criminal offers the cops some information and blows the Glenn Davis murder case wide open.
He tells me that he was hired by a man to kill Glenn Davis.
The snitch claims he was offered $150,000 to murder the millionaire back in December 2005. He hired another lowlife to do the dirty work. But good help is hard to find. His man didn't finish the job.
He was supposed to die that day. Mr. Davis was supposed to die that day from that beating.
The informant tells cops he was hired by Russian construction worker Dmitry Kosirin. He also identifies the suspect captured in the CCTV video. Kosirin's right-hand man, Yevgeny Vorobyov, also known as Eugene.
As a result of the information that he had provided us, we were able to link Dmitry Kosirin to the attack in 2005. There was a very clear connection between Dmitry Kosirin and Evgeny Vorobyov.
Is the Russian mafia targeting this multimillionaire?
The investigation never revealed any connections between Dmitry Kosirin, Evgeny Vorobyov, or really anyone involved in the investigation to any organized crime ties.
So why kill a man they'd never met? Unless they're hired guns. Were the Russians paid by anti-green extremists to gun down Glenn Davis?
The Russians they're basically contractors for someone else who's going to profit, who he thinks he's going to profit from Glenn Davis's murder.
In early 2009, police wiretapped the Russians' phones and bugged their vehicles. They eavesdrop on a damning conversation between Dmitry Kosirin and someone who seems to know a surprising amount about the murder plot.
There's one telling intercept that occurs where they discuss and outline everyone's role in the murder on the day of the murder and what was done. It was as a result of that conversation that we're ultimately able to identify and confirm who the person of interest was.
The cops can hardly believe it when they identify the owner of the voice. Nearly 2 years after millionaire philanthropist Glenn Davis is gunned down, A secretly taped conversation reveals the mastermind behind the murder. Davis's cousin and trusted godson, Marshall Ross.
We're fine. You sure about that? Positive.
During that conversation, Marshall Ross and Dmitry Kasirin talk about the video surveillance, about the timestamps. Dmitry Kasirin suggests, well, that's not evidence, that's not proof.
They don't know who he is.
And Marshall says, well, no, but they put it together with the other evidence. And as a result of that, Marshall Ross and Dmitry Kasirin discuss what everybody's role is. And Marshall Ross is kind enough to review the sequence of events.
We're good.
In February 2009, police arrest Marshall Ross and charge him with first-degree murder.
They came in, and I'm standing there, and they tell me that Marshall Ross has been arrested for the first-degree murder of Glenn Davis. What? What did you say? Marshall Ross? And they said, he didn't pull the trigger, but he was into it up to here.
Overnight, the close-knit Davis family goes into meltdown.
Marshall's family refused to believe it.
Hey, good business, my boy.
And it does seem unbelievable.
I like it.
Why kill the person who's given you millions of dollars? But Glenn's generous loan was not enough for Marshall Ross.
The loan started in 2004, and almost immediately, Marshall began to run into financial problems. He seemed to be losing money hand over fist.
Instead of paying off the loan, Marshall squanders the money on an extravagant lifestyle.
Marshall Ross was a guy who had no wealth, who wanted to flash it around, to portray to people that he was extremely successful and wealthy, and dug himself a bigger and bigger hole in his life, trying to maintain the lie, the facade of success.
When Marshall was in his deepest financial crisis, he took a month's trip to Italy and rented 2 villas and cars and brought back cases of wine, all Glenn Davis's money.
Marshall can't face up to his failure, so he hides his massive debt.
Marshall Ross was so indebted to Glenn Davis that he had no reasonable prospects of ever paying that money back.
You want to grab a bite?
Oh, I can't. I got too much going on.
Everything okay?
Yeah, it's great.
If he had come to Mr. Davis and said to him, you know, Uncle Glenn, I've mucked this business up. I'm deep in debt, and I don't know how to get out of it.
To hear it.
Mr. Davis would have given him a lecture, which was his want, and they would have said, okay, how can we solve this? Because that's the kind of guy Mr. Davis was.
Drowning in debt, he watched his godfather give away a fortune and seethed with rage, believing charity should begin and end at his home.
Marshall Ross had a sense of entitlement. He believed that his side of the family was more entitled to Nelson Davis's fortune than Glenn Davis was.
About a photo?
Oh, sure, boy, sure.
Simply because Glenn Davis was adopted, and he felt that his family were the rightful heirs of the company and the fortune.
Finally, he could stand it no longer. Marshall had to get his hands on that money before it was all gone. For that to happen, Glenn Davis had to die.
He wanted Glenn Davis murdered. He hired people to murder Glenn Davis, that he was involved in the 2005 incident, and that he was involved in the 2007 incident.
On both occasions, he turned to his business associate, Dmitry Kasirin.
I don't want to know how, when, or where.
Marshall Ross
I just want the job done right this time.
hired Dmitry as the middleman to find someone to kill his uncle. And he supplied Dmitry with all of the logistics.
After the bungled 2005 attack, the Russians make sure this time Marshall's plan is properly executed.
Glenn Davis, after being shot the first time, was begging for his life and had actually fallen to his knees
No, please, please.
before he fired the second and fatal shot.
Don't kill me.
In the ultimate betrayal, Marshall Ross paid for the hit with his godfather's money.
Glenn Davis funded his own murder.
Dmitry Kosirin and Evgeny Vorobyov are found guilty of murder in the first degree and given life sentences. In 2011, Marshall Ross pleads guilty to murder and receives Canada's maximum sentence, life in prison.
Glenn Davis loved Marshall Ross. He was his favorite relative. Glenn Davis did everything for Marshall Ross to succeed. It took 21 months to solve this case because of that, because it's a betrayal on a level that's rarely seen.
A week after arranging the murder, Marshall Ross has the gall to star at his godfather's funeral.
Over the past 40 years.
When you look back and you see how he acted, putting the Tilly hat on, emceeing this reception that we were having, putting Mr. Davis into the ground, all the time knowing that he had caused Mr. Davis's murder. It's just, you can't even imagine someone could do that. So a huge betrayal of everyone's trust involved.
Marshall Ross assumed he would inherit Glenn Davis's fortune. There was just one problem. When the will was read, Marshall wasn't in it. Ever the philanthropist, Glenn Davis left his entire fortune to charity. Just goes to show, even for the most privileged, the best laid plans can quickly plunge into chaos.
In the middle of the night, on the side of a cliff,
Please hurry!
a desperate man
I'm hanging on the edge of a cliff.
makes a frantic emergency call.
Help! I'm on the edge of a cliff.
They had a hysterical male on the other end of the phone saying he'd gone over the cliff and didn't know where he was.
Help me, please.
But he's not the only one who's gone over the edge.
My wife was in the tree.
It's a dramatic plea for help. I'm stuck here on the side of this cliff. Please come and help me. My wife is somewhere down there. I don't know what happened to her.
Oh, God.
Nestled on the shores of Lake Tahoe, Incline Village is one of the most exclusive hamlets in the U.S.
It is breathtakingly beautiful. It's a very affluent community.
Its residents are rock stars, business giants. Basically, you don't live in this neck of the woods unless you've made it.
Actually, billionaires with a B. I can think of probably 10 well-known celebrities that live in that area.
Peter and Renette Bergner might not be famous, but they're certainly rich. And like others in Incline, inclined toward the finer things in life.
It's a perfect blend of fruit, acid, and tannin.
Renette and Peter were wealthy, but they were not ostentatious. Peter did like showing off his wine and his art, but it was always more that he was proud of the collection, not trying to flaunt his wealth.
The son of a prominent and wealthy California attorney, 45-year-old Peter makes big money as an art appraiser for a high-end auction house.
Peter was that guy you see on the Antiques Roadshow who can look at an old artwork, a piece of furniture or whatever, and come up with a valuation.
But his most valuable acquisition would have to be his wife, Renette, a self-made woman, earning a small fortune as a pharmaceutical consultant.
she kind of built up her own little business as a pharmacist. She was a freelance pharmacist, and she worked at a couple of different hospitals. And, you know, her earning potential was very high, and she could have made almost as much money as she wanted.
But Renette isn't driven by money. And in 1997, the 49-year-old suddenly announces a career change.
No. Can you believe it? Oh, I hate you. I'm so jealous.
She's giving up her lucrative job to become a tour guide.
Renetta wanted to change careers, and with the change of careers meant more time away from home, but yet it was something that she really wanted to do.
Touring all the way down through Rome.
Even though ditching the pills and prescriptions means taking a massive pay cut. And in the spring of 1998, Renette leads her first major tour, a 6-week trip to her spiritual homeland, Italy.
She's from an Italian family, and she spoke Italian. And so even though she was inexperienced, the tour company took a chance on her, and she went to Italy for several weeks, leaving Peter behind.
Renette has never been happier, but she will never see her home again.
When you're rolling in money, you can afford to indulge the odd whim. Wealthy Renette Bergner threw away her lucrative career to work as a tour guide. Now she's just returned from 6 weeks in Italy, and husband Peter wants her homecoming to be unforgettable. And so it will be.
Peter picked Renette up at the airport. They decided to take a romantic drive up the side of the mountain to this place where they could look over the valley of Nevada and see the lights twinkling below them.
Oh, it's great to be here.
He was trying to get her in the mood, and they were going to go home and make love after they had this romantic drive on the side of the mountain.
But the happy homecoming suddenly takes a turn for the worse.
Slow down! Slow down!
He drives down the hill, and he loses control of the truck. He's braking, the brakes don't work. The truck crashes into a guardrail. Peter somehow gets thrown from the truck.
The first impact for the vehicle was about 104 feet. Then it tumbled approximately 700 more feet. End over end, side over side, but literally vehicle tumbling with Mrs. Bergner still inside.
There is no way anybody could have survived a crash like this. The truck plunging through a guardrail, hurtling hundreds of feet down a cliff, landing upside down. It is just devastating. Renette suffered horrific injuries, brain trauma, bleeding in the head, broken ribs, broken neck. Her body was essentially mangled.
By dawn, Reno police are at the crash scene. When Detective James Beltran arrives, it's what he doesn't see that puzzles him.
The thing that got me first was it was a freshly paved highway, and there was no scuff, skid, gouge, fluid deposit, anything like that that would lead you to believe that there was any kind of braking or steering. There was no marks on the roadway at all. If there was a catastrophic failure of the master cylinder or your brakes, there would be some deposit of fluid most likely. Or if there was turning or speed involved, there would be yaw, scuff, skid. There was none of that.
Other things don't add up.
Early on, police suspected that he had to have been driving fast to crash through this guardrail. 40, 50, 60 miles per hour.
If Peter Bergner was thrown from a vehicle going that fast, he'd be lucky to be alive. But when he returns to the crash scene later that day, it seems he's escaped with barely a scratch.
He was basically uninjured other than he had a twisted ankle
He had dirt on the back side of his pants, and his hands and face were unremarkable, not injured or scuffed.
When police examine the twisted guardrail, the mystery deepens.
It looked like things had been kind of loosened on the guardrail, that there weren't as many bolts through the actual railing, and that the post itself probably was not embedded completely and solidly into the ground.
Who removed those bolts? Was it Peter Bergner? Was all this part of an elaborate plan to kill his wife? For cops, it seems just too far-fetched.
This required Peter to, even going 15 or 20 miles per hour, jump out of a truck at the very last second before his wife plunged to her death.
Then detectives discover a far more innocent explanation. Hang gliders, hankering for a clear runway.
I believe that was done by the people that hang glide in that area.
Peter's story does check out. With the guardrail so loose, he wouldn't have to be traveling fast to go through it. Which explains why he's not severely injured.
As cops investigated, they realized he could have been driving as slowly as 20 miles per hour to crash through, which is how fast he said he was driving.
Peter Bergner was adamant. The brakes just failed.
I was hitting the brake, I was hitting the brake, I was hitting the brake, and it wasn't stopping.
Peter is left to pick up the pieces of his life. The wealthy widower seeks solace in spending.
He buys boats, he buys more antiques. He goes back to living pretty much the kind of life he was leading before she died.
Reno police continue probing the accident and discover the Bergner's champagne marriage had lost much of its fizz.
Peter and Renette seemed to have everything, but when police started talking to friends and family, it turns out this was a deeply troubled marriage. And there were two major issues. One, Peter wanted children, Renette did not. Two, Peter wanted Renette home all the time. Renette wanted to be a tour guide and was going to be gone for weeks, if not months on end.
You know I'm going to Pompeii.
Peter admitted in his first police interviews that he was desperately lonely.
I want her home with me. That's why I got married. And not be married to be alone.
He was, in his words, lonely because they didn't have kids, and when she wasn't there, he would sit at home and do nothing. But we'd later find out that wasn't necessarily true.
Yes, red is my favorite.
In fact, while Renette was overseas, the art dealer was casting an eye over some exquisite pieces.
This particular red is perfect.
He seemed to be hitting on women in the Reno and Lake Tahoe area.
But is being lonely enough motive to hatch such a perilous murder plot? Investigators delve into the Bergner's finances and find Renette's death makes her rich husband even richer. Not only does he pocket a life insurance payout worth nearly $500,000, he also receives another big bonus, inheriting a slice of Renette's vast family fortune.
Renette came from a very old and established ranching family in Northern California. They owned hundreds of acres south of Sacramento. If you were to sell that, it would be worth millions.
And when detectives read the terms of the inheritance, they discover an intriguing catch.
For Peter to get a piece of Renette's family fortune, she had to die.
Peter Bergner knows the value of a rare antique. He also knows exactly what his wife's life was worth.
Peter stood to inherit hundreds of thousands of dollars from Renette and her family, but only if she died. If they divorced, because of the way the inheritance and the contract was written up, he would get nothing.
Where there's money, there's a motive. Cops start to suspect Peter Bergner did stage the crash to murder Renette. But it seems almost too incredible to believe. If you want to kill someone, there are much easier ways than driving off a cliff.
This meant that Peter Bergner risked his own life, really risked his own life, just to get rid of his wife.
Investigators start to build the case against him.
It took a long time. It took a lot of accident reconstruction. It took months and months and months for police to build this case against Peter.
First, there's his cap, found abandoned on the road.
Police were curious about Peter's ball cap. It wasn't on the side of the cliff. It seems like if he got thrown from the car, as he claimed, this thing should have tumbled down the hill, but it was just there.
A search of the wreck finds 2 cans of gasoline in the back of the truck had their sealer caps removed.
That means that Peter allegedly had put 2 essentially open gas cans in the back of the truck, making them wonder, did he plan for this truck to explode into flames?
A lot of people see movies where the car will go over a cliff and suddenly explode. Well, that's a movie magic effect. He thought it'd take fire and then further reduce any evidence. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it didn't start up.
When forensics experts examine the clothes Peter was wearing the night of the accident, they find mysterious dark marks.
We had that tested, and it was asphalt. So that means he left on the roadway, out of the vehicle, prior to hitting the guardrail.
Peter also admits he went to the crash site just before the accident, and not to go hang gliding.
Peter had been to the scene just the day before, and prosecutors said that he knew the guardrail was not secure. So clearly he could have known that the guardrail had been loosened, that the post was not secure, that the truck would relatively easily crash through.
Perhaps most telling of all, forensic mechanics find the truck's brakes and steering were in perfect working order. In November 2000, more than 2 years after the crash, Peter Bergner is arrested and charged with Renette's murder.
It was simple greed.
So what really happened on the mountain around midnight that night? Police say before leaving for the airport, Peter dressed in thick clothes to protect himself, but not from the cold.
Prosecutors theorize that he did this to protect himself when he jumped out of the truck and slid down the hill.
Placing the open gas cans in the back, he picks up Renette from the airport and heads up the mountain. Not, as he claimed, for a romantic interlude, but a bitter showdown.
In Peter's pocket after the accident, police found this list.
What's this?
It's a list of things I need you to do if you really want to save this marriage.
It was like a numerical list of all the things that had to be done to improve their marriage.
You've got to be kidding.
I'm serious.
More
I'm
sex,
not waiting around for
spend
6
more
months
time with
to
each
go on a
other.
trip.
It was like talking points. We went up that hill, apparently with a very clear agenda, and that was improve this marriage or else.
If he didn't get the answers he wanted that night, he was going to end it.
When Renette won't bend to his will, Peter puts his diabolical plan into action.
Slow down!
Swerving to aim straight at the broken guardrail. A moment before impact, he leaps out, abandoning Renette to her fate.
Not only was Peter Bergner angry, desperate, perhaps greedy, but in a perverse way, he was very brave. Because this was a difficult crime to pull off. This required Peter to, even going 15 or 20 miles per hour, jump out of a truck at the very last second before his wife plunged to her death. What must she have thought at the moment that her husband bailed out and left her to die? Peter then scurries down the hill a little bit, clings to a branch, and calls 911 from his cell phone.
And Peter Bergner's bizarre behavior after the crash rings alarm bells for the Reno cops.
Several hours after the crash, to the shock of the officers there, Peter returns to the scene. He's already been at the hospital. He's been through this horrific accident.
Officer Beltram.
Hi, Peter.
Hey.
A friend drives him there. He gets out of the car, and what does he ask for? His man bag, this pouch that has some of his stuff in it.
Did you guys find my my fanny pack?
And the officers are amazed
fanny
that his wife has just been killed, and he's worried about his gear. Why is he back here?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
It's really important I get it.
It was one of the first signs that something suspicious was going on.
He said absolutely nothing about how is my wife, where is my wife, what's her status. He was more interested in the bag.
Yeah, it's just down probably.
I mean, that's not a grieving husband or anybody that has any sense of remorse.
Have any of you guys found it?
Detective James Beltran doesn't buy the distraught husband act either.
He went through all the motion of crying and carrying on as if he was distraught.
There's no way I'd ever kill my wife for no reason whatsoever. I don't care. I don't care.
The huffing, the hyperventilation, and the actual chopping of his words to make it look like he was actually being emotional. The problem was that he never had a tear one, or his nose didn't run. There was Kleenex on the table right in front of him, and he never reached for it.
Help! I'm on the edge of a cliff!
Peter Bergner stands trial for his wife's murder in October 2001, more than 3 years after her horrible death. He still maintains it was a tragic accident, and some jurors agree.
It was 9-3, and the three holdouts just would not budge on it.
The judge declares a mistrial. But determined to nail their man, Reno police push for a retrial 6 months later. The cocky art collector thinks he can beat the rap again.
Peter's biggest enemy in all this was himself. Peter is arrogant. He doesn't seem to have any remorse. He doesn't seem to have any sadness. To the jury, he acted like a guilty man.
This time, Peter Bergner is found guilty of first-degree murder. The only spending he'll do now is spending life behind bars. Peter Bergner's overwhelming greed destroyed one life and left others, like seasoned cop James Beltran, with permanent scars.
Well, it was my last case, and to this day, I still take flowers to the crash site. So that means quite a bit to the satisfaction for her and for her family.
When greed takes hold, it can overpower even the wealthiest of men. Marshall Ross killed the generous godfather who'd set him up for life. And Peter Bergner sacrificed his loving wife on the altar of avarice. They should have been counting their blessings, but it was never enough. Till next time we meet, behind mansion walls, I'm Christopher Mason.